Well, he flashed
He
it.
knows how to use it.
Yeah.
It's good. Good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's Master Plan Update Steering Committee meeting. We got a wonderful agenda this evening. We're going to have a project update status by Judy Barrett, Daphne Politis, and Eric Alverson, who are RKG associates. We're going to have the continued discussion on the public participation plan. We're going to talk about the overall structure for the public participation, roles of the MPUSC, types of meetings, meeting dates, times, best methods and outreach, branding, website. Then we're going to talk about what we're going to do in June at our public meeting, and then geographic comparison communities for master plan elements. And then we'll be getting to some board business. With that, Mike, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Board of Selectmen,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Board of Selectmen? I'm from the Board of Selectmen? No. Okay, just can't vote, okay? Stay up here with us. Just can't vote yet. All right. Okey-doke. With that said, first, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Paul Glavy, newest member of the Board of Selectmen here in town of Littleton. Well done, Mr. Glavy. Before we get actually into the project update, what we're doing with the what we're doing with the steering group, is I want to talk about economic development very quickly. We had a very good presentation last night by Dr. Barry Bluestone from the Dukakis Center of Urban and Regional Policy at Northeastern University, and it's one of the pillars of the master plan, and that's economic development. It was very timely. Various folks in town, between the FinCom, the Economic Development Committee, the Board of Selectmen, have been working through Keith to get Dr. Bluestone out here and do this, what we call EDSAT, and it was a economic development self-assessment, and various people in town got to participate. So the results are, and if you've watched television, and if you see us on TV right now, you watch television, and you know, whenever they advertise a new program on television, it's a must-see event, and you don't want to miss this event. Well, you don't want to miss the Littleton, Massachusetts, a look at economic development. It's on our website. Go to the website and learn about Littleton, learn about what Littleton's strengths are, learn about Littleton's weaknesses and areas for improvement. We're not going to share them with you tonight because we want you to go to the Littleton website. So go to the Littleton website and look up Littleton, Massachusetts, a look at economic development. Please, folks, very sincerely, it brings out some very good points for us here in the town. There are some very good areas of improvement. You'll be pleased with some of it for sure. Some of it really things that were counterintuitive to many of us, to include Dr. Bluestone, some of the findings that came out of this, and certainly some of the people here at the table this evening were there last night for the presentation. And as I said, there were some things that are counterintuitive, and it may well be to you all too. But it's a good opportunity for us to learn from it so that we can go forward and make things better. With that said, Judy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure.
And please take us through the update and give us project status.
Certainly. Well, since the last time we saw you, we've been working on a couple of things. First of all, we're still very much in data gathering mode, and so with Myron's help, which has been fabulous, we've, I think, pulled together a fair amount of information on the community. We don't yet have everything, of course, and I know once we get into some meetings with, actual residents and so forth, and we start asking questions, there's probably going to be some more things that dawn on us that we didn't ask for in the first place. But you're in this kind of information gathering mode for the first couple of months on these projects. So that's one thing that we're doing. We've also, Eric has been working with Myron to set up what we're calling core assessment meetings. Rather than having 4 or 5 different consultants landing on your town at different times and not necessarily in a very coordinated way, needing to talk to residents, we wanted to have sort of a group interview process with people who are kind of knowledgeable about some of the master plan elements that we're going to be working on. So for example, to inform the development of the natural resources element of the plan, Peter Flinker from Dodson Flinker is going to be coming out here for an evening and meeting with some folks that Myron is in the process of scheduling to meet with Peter, to people who are interested in open space and natural resources and know a lot about that. We don't want to just sort of base this all off of data that we get somewhere else. We want to talk to real people. So we'll be doing that for each of the master plan elements. I know cultural resources, I think, is set up at this point, and the others are in play. So those are going to be going on sort of mid to late June, I think, is kind of the timeline that we're looking at for those core assessment meetings. And then also thinking about and trying to plan for this public event that's going to happen on June 13th. So there's been a fair amount of discussion between us about just getting these what I call the existing conditions and sort of inventory process going, planning for the public meeting and getting everybody under contract and moving forward. So that's kind of where we are at this point. We're in data gathering, data analysis mode.
Okay. Have there been any speed bumps to that gathering mode as you described?
We haven't run into any issues. I mean, if we ask for information, we've been getting it. But you know, what happens when you get information, you start reading it, and you realize, oh, I need something else here. So it's peeling back the layers of the onion, I think, for a bit. But we haven't had any trouble getting information. First of all, a lot of it's on your website. But what isn't on the website, if we've asked for it, we've gotten it. It's been tremendous cooperation here. This is a nice town. Somebody's doing a good job managing the departments here because there's no issue with getting information from people.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we are. And really, I think, very much focusing on these sort of early public participation components, which is a lot of what the heart of this meeting is going to be about tonight. So
Okay. All right.
that's my update.
Anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Maybe this is too early. Maybe we should wait. In brief, I feel you're underutilized,
Oh,
and I'm not sure. I'm concerned about the similarity. I read ahead. I'm concerned about the similarity between what the outlook is contained in the materials received and 2002.
oh,
There are websites now, there weren't. I mean, there's a lot of dissimilarities. But what I have is I see the same pattern. And I'd like to propose, to cut to the chase, that this committee do some heavy lifting, that is, assume a more leadership position. Elections have consequences. On my left is a newly elected member of selectmen. On my right is a recent member. We have other elected people, Melissa, who represents large segments of the population. They've heard what the town should look like, what they've heard and understood what priorities are. And I think that it's time for us to put some boundary condition on how we plan to make something really work. And what I'm proposing is that we shift course very slightly. This is not to disturb what you have in mind, just put it in a different context, especially in engaging the public. And that is for our group, working with you to define, aggressively define, 2 alternatives for each key area. In other words, literally, I would call them almost, I don't want us to make policy, I want to offer alternatives. And very specific, and also include cost, impact on taxes, right in the same column. You want fields, this is how much it costs. You want to buy land, this is how much it costs. This is how much it will raise your taxes. Do you want this or the one in column B? And I'm only suggesting 2 because studies have shown that if you begin offering more than 2 options to people, off the rails. And I'm suggesting that we begin communicating these alternatives to the relevant parts of the town, including the administration. So such things as the sewage, sewers, new sidewalks, new places are put into a cost context. Why cost? Because what we're really asking, in my view, the public to do is to put a value on these things. We can help put a cost, millions of dollars, this is your tax. What's the trade-off? That reflects value system. What I saw in the questionnaires that you've already put in and that are coming are, to me, what I call the unicorn questions, where it allows the respondent with no response, I don't mean responsibility, no way to put limits on that they use every day in deciding to make their own decisions about, do I want to buy a car or buy a house?
May I respond?
I want us, that is the committee, to do the heavy lifting on putting together those alternatives before we reach.
So it's a very important point, both about alternatives as well as priorities and how priorities are intricately related to cost. The way we have found the process works better, and I mean better in that it involves more people and that it allows people to participate in a way that's comfortable, is we start broad. And we start first identifying the values without limits, without boundaries, you're right. And then as we move forward, we start to discipline. Okay, that costs something. That's not feasible because of this reason or that reason. And one of the reasons for that is that if we start with the alternatives, we might be missing, we need to have an overall vision and a set of goals that people agree on, and then start to find different ways of achieving that. And that's when then you can start to say, all right, here are several ways of achieving this.
Here are the
One of-
trade-offs.
Here are the obstacles, and one of the factors is cost. And when we get to that point, we can talk about different ways of playing that out. One way is, we've done it with, participatory budgeting in a way, where you give people money and you say, all right, you can only have $100. That's the town's budget. Now you go spend it on these projects that you said you wanted. Oh, oops, you wanted them all. You can't. You only have $100. So that's one way. Another way is doing that trade-off and getting people the fiscal impact as well as the cost. So as we move forward, the appropriate way may also emerge.
I don't agree. Just put it simply. I
I appreciate that.
I just see that as not a good use, not as powerful use, because I've seen.
So which is
this-
not as powerful use?
When you present alternatives, the topics, I believe, are known in the town quite broadly. And at every meeting, at every venue, one hears, if you're a member of anyone who's listening, like selectmen, like the planning board, you hear the same stories repeatedly, the same vision repeatedly. I want open space. How much? As much as I can get is one extreme. I don't want Littleton to change. All these things cost. All these things have value. What I'm suggesting is, I don't think the evidence is strong enough for me to be convinced, and I can gladly be corrected, that the method that you have in mind will allow Littleton to start thinking out of the box.
Let's get a few more thoughts on that. Other people?
I feel like if I had your proposal, I'd be kind of turned off because I figure it's already figured out. I have no input. Her way, I have input. I feel like I own it.
And then you support it when it's time to implement it.
Right.
Exactly.
And then
right.
I have the ability to make decisions
Being presented
based
with
on
alternatives.
limited resources.
All I'm saying is, being presented with alternatives does give you choice. And there are not an infinite number of choices. In the real world, there are not an infinite number of choices.
Correct.
Generally, there's 2 or 3 that are really meaningful, and those are it for a town.
Well, that's it. I think that, Mike, I think you make a good point. I think we can all do the math and arrive at some pretty certain conclusions of, things we're going to find through this process. That being said, I do think that this is the right process to go to get buy-in, to make sure everyone's heard, to make sure it's a collective opinion. So I totally hear what you're saying, completely hear it. We know that we're going to have to make some choices in some pretty key areas that we already know about. You're right. But that being said, I think the process that we're going through is still the right one.
If I captured Mike's comment clearly enough, and I'm not sure that I did, because you presented quite a complex set of theories here, is that you're thinking of the way forward would be to just list everything that we know is on the table, that we know people are talking about, that we know are in that crystal ball that we can see clearly in front of us, and just work from those items along with the pluses and the minuses that go along with those items. And I think what I'm hearing from our consultants here is that we'll probably arrive at that, but if we open the doors widely and listen to every single possible comment that's out there to start with, we get more buy-in from people. The difference between shooting right to the chase and starting with our consultants is time, because we'll end up with the same, I believe we'll end up in the same place over a period of time. And I think that, I know that the way town meeting works and the way that people think in this town is, everybody in this town has an opinion. This is a very opinionated town. That I think that the safest route forward would be the more conservative route, which would be to listen to everybody and then work towards what I know you are right about, we'll end up with a finite set of issues on the table. My thoughts.
Mike, I appreciate your skepticism. You voiced it at the beginning of this process before we even had a consultant hired or even an RFP out. But I think that you're bringing your skepticism, you're dropping it down like a hammer. What I would prefer is that you use your skepticism like a scalpel. And I think what we should do is continue moving through the process that we have in front of us with that scalpel ready to go to cut away the fat if we see it coming. I think that what's going to happen, as someone who's been through enough of, not this particular effort, but enough of these types of things, both in the public sector and the private sector, I think we all have a reasonable idea, because most of us sitting here have been plugged in and gone through these types of things, a pretty good idea in terms of probability where more or less we're going to end up. I wouldn't argue that there's an infinite number of things that are going to be put on the table. It's a finite. It could be more than we really need, but I think we can whittle away the ones we know are clearly, from a probability perspective, not going to happen easily enough after they've been put on the table by whoever comes out to voice their 2 cents worth. And I think we can take care of that business. I like the idea, though, of you and the rest of us keeping a close eye as the process unfolds to make sure that when it's I think the time for us to do the heavy lifting is after we've acquired all the information and gone through this process, and then we have this pile in front of us. Then we can start to really do the heavy lifting. That's where I see this group becoming more of the ball carrier than at the moment right now. Mostly because we all have lives. These guys are getting paid to do this every day. We have other things we have to do and other roles in town that we've assumed. So I'm looking to kind of let them run with it. But I like the skepticism. I have no problem with skepticism. I think it'll make us all better in the long run. And they might come back after this is all over and say, wow, we're better than we used to be because that guy kept our feet to the fire. So that's the way I'm looking at it right now.
I think I need the data that they want, because I live here for 1 year only, so I really don't know what's happening in the town, like everybody knows, or all the issues. Like the sewage thing, I just learned when I was in the interview. Like I didn't have a clue, and I think the data that this thing that they're doing, the collection and the broad aspect, it's good just to make because I don't want our committee to be the responsible to, okay, we are going to select these items and those are the alternatives that we know that's the issues now. I think we should have official data from the consultants, like just an outside view.
Joe?
I'm late, so is there a particular item that we're commenting on at the moment?
I will let you catch up on that.
Yeah. You can skip over me for the moment.
Harley? Thoughts?
I think it's important to have an outside set of eyes look at the town. I think that, I'm on a, not a very important board, but I have a point of view, and I would think it would be useful to have somebody outside of that point of view look at it and evaluate it and give us their opinion, and I think we can deal with it after that. I think, I don't know how that fits into, making decisions, but I think having an outside set of eyes is important.
Paul?
Yeah, I would like to associate myself with a couple of Mike's comments, and thank him for allowing me to be the voice of reason. I don't always have the...
Speaking on a relative basis.
I shared, I had, we're fairly early into the process, at least the part that is joint with consultants, and I was a little concerned that our roles was going to be too much of a receptor of information and just, nodding heads to work done outside. So I look forward anxiously to the point where we get more directly involved, whether that's you folks finding appropriate ways to pull us into that process, or whether it's, as was suggested earlier by Mike Fontanella, maybe, when we get some things on the table that you've generated for us to get more directly involved hands-on. The other point is I think, put me in the camp of the people who thinks that we're probably going to arrive at some familiar territory, and we're going to be facing choices which, if we had a gun to our heads, we could all pretty much guess tonight. That being said, when I go to a play, even if I know we're going to be in the third act, I want to see the first and second acts too. So let's go ahead and let this process go forward is my suggestion, and with the understanding, at least from my point of view, I can't wait for that stage where we've got hard, concrete options on the table, and our role of hashing that over is important. I know last night, Mr. Chairman, you used the word actionable items, the phrase actionable items. That's important to me, that we get to a point where we're getting beyond general wants to what are our actionable options. And then, Rich Crowley made a point which just reminded me of, as far as things that are already on the table. I'm making this point internally to my colleagues on the selectmen that this process, seeks to grab a point in time and plot a plan for the future, but it doesn't tell the town to halt everything until we're done. Things go on. So things that are already at some stage of the game, whether they've been the housing production plan, which was just recently revised, that you guys had input in, there's no reason to completely overhaul that. Well, there's other things that have been kicked around for years that are already in front of the selectmen in some form, like the sewer process proposal. All those things don't just have to sit idly by and wait for the master plan process. So I'm comforted by that thought, and I'm using this opportunity to remind folks of that too. So
Yes, yeah.
We certainly have a responsibility, somewhat to your point, I believe, Mike, to be out and about the community. But we're 12 folks, and there's 9,488 or so other folks in town who feel maybe just as strongly that they know what they want for the town, and that they believe they know what others want for the town. Certainly, we're somewhat in the know. There's no two ways about that. We get to meet a lot of people, we listen to a lot of people. That's our responsibility on the various boards and committees we serve on, is to be out and about the community. Still, it's clear to me that I know I do not reach out and touch everybody in the community. The various different constituencies, that increases that probability. But definitely, we form the locus, if you will, right now, so there is our responsibility. We're a center of gravity in an orbit, and there's an aggregation of all those thoughts and ideas that are going to come together and form that perfect planet, so to speak. And all the asteroids and comets and everything come together. Astronomy is certainly, a very good analogy, I believe, in this part, because there's so many different things. And what's going to be that comet that brings the life form here to our planet, if you will, and that spark of life that really gets us going. So with that, if you're okay, I'd like Judy and the team to continue, and then we keep what you have in mind, and then at the end of the evening, let's go back, circle back to it, and redress and see how we can maybe bring it back closer together.
And I'm not going to let you get away with the metaphor of astronomy. This is, to me, just starts to look like quantum physics. It's different. It's more uncertain.
That's
But
okay.
We can move on.
Let's just hope it's not. Let's just not hope it's cold fusion.
That's not physics. Here we go.
Please, have we bored you enough?
Okay, well, as the agenda indicates, we kind of wanted to kind of go back to the public participation plan, which we've done some more work on. I'm going to turn this over to Daphne, obviously. And then we need to talk about the June meeting. And everything else on the agenda, I think, is really small stuff, but the public participation plan is really, really key to us, just because of the amount of prep work involved. So if you don't mind, I think I'll just turn this over
Yes,
to my
ma'am.
colleague to my right.
Thank you, Judy. So it's actually, the starting point is actually where you have led us, Michael, which is really important. And that's to remember again what the context is. So the plan is about developing a vision and a set of goals that all of you here could probably help us do very quickly. But we would be leaving out new people who might have new ideas. We would be leaving out people who might then oppose the plan because they weren't asked. And we would be leaving out new ideas that come from hearing other people's ideas, because piggybacking is one of the best ways of coming up with new ideas. So we have to develop this vision and set of goals that's broad-based, that people can come around and say, we really want this. And because we really want it, we're willing to make trade-offs. And so in order to really want it, you have to participate in making it. Otherwise, if you feel like somebody else came up with it, then you say, well, they're going to force this upon me. So that's our first step, is coming up with this vision and set of goals that most people, we'll never get all people, that most people can get excited about and most people can support. At the same time, as Judy mentioned, this inventory of existing resources is very important because that's the reality, where an assessment of your reality, of your resources. What do you have? What's going on with what you have? What are the trends? So then from where you are to where you want to go, there are only a limited a number of ways of getting there. And so we have to identify those and identify the trade-offs and ask people again. And then again, that's where you come in to say, you know, for these reasons, that's not going to work here. And you have a lot of knowledge, this committee here, where that's going to be very useful. But at this point in the process, what's most useful is for all of you to remain curious about what everybody else thinks and to be open to hearing about that, whether or not you agree. The role is not to disagree or to tell people what Act 3 will say. The role is to be curious and to say, all right, I wonder what he thinks about that. I like his shirt color. I wonder if that says anything about what he's going to think. Oh, no, it didn't. He has a different idea. And that's something that I can make use of and I can take and run with. So it's really about gathering as much as we can. And then later on, we pull it together and then we get down to, all right, is this doable? How can we make it doable? What does it mean? What does it cost? What are the trade-offs? So having said that, now we have to get into the nitty-gritty about how to do that in the first phase of trying to do this outreach to people to come to this first meeting, because that's going to be really important to try to get as many points of view to this first meeting, June 13th. And then throughout the process, we want to keep people updated. Not everyone is going to want to come all the time, and not everyone is going to read it all the time, but we want them to know that there's a place where they can go and they can find out what's going on. And they can feel like they're part of it, even if we just have a comment board here on Town Hall where they can answer a question as they're going to town clerk. So people need to feel like there's an opportunity for them to participate, to react, to respond, and to keep updated. So we need to make sure that that is something that we set up now and that we're all involved in and that we keep it going so that it feels transparent, it feels inclusive, and it feels solid. It feels like this is a solid process that I want to participate in, that I can respect, that I feel I can belong to, and that I can trust, even if I'm not, if I'm too busy and I can't be there all the time. So that's what we're trying to do. And then when we talk about the details, just remember that's what we're trying to do. So let's go to the public participation plan. This is basically has taken your comments twice now, right? And also what Maren gave in the very beginning, which was a very useful starting point about all the contact info and all the detail. So, again, page 1, do you all have it? You do. And I just want to remind you of the little box in the right, the little green box. So if we tell people, they just might forget. If we show them, yeah, okay, they'll remember. But if we involve them, they'll understand. And more importantly, they'll get involved and they'll support. Because when we go further down the line, we're going to be incrementally implementing, right? You don't implement a master plan in one town meeting. You need to be, you sure don't, right? And so people need to feel like they understand that what that little step has to do with that overall vision and set of goals that they were involved in creating. So, let's go to page 2. We now have our full steering committee, right, Maren? Okay. And people were supposed to send Maren ideas about friends, and the friends are people who can be as little or as much involved as they want. They're not voting members, but they're going to help primarily with outreach so that they have access to their email lists and other groups of people and clubs and organizations and play groups, or whatever. So did you receive any?
I've got quite a few
Great.
List of friends for people. Anybody else could certainly use more.
So we'll just continue to make that list, and then we'll ask those people, send them a flyer, give them hard copies, and then that will just help to generate more awareness of the opportunity to be involved, and awareness about what we're doing.
Are we going to put those lists in the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So because people should get credit for that.
No,
Yeah.
I completely
Yeah.
agree.
So we talked a little bit about what had worked well in the past and ideas for the future. We talked about perhaps having a dinner, the raffle, even the idea of having a benign presence in the library with a little slip of paper. Here it is. And links on the website to best practices. That was also an interesting idea that we need to work on. So who are the hard-to-reach populations? And so we want to be thinking about those as we talk about outreach. The families with young children, seniors who stay at home, single seniors, those without internet, low income. And we also identified a Chinese Bible group. Some newly arrived Chinese residents. So next on the list is branding. Why don't we just continue and we'll come back to that. Here's the list on page 3 of the public forums as we have identified dates so far. We just want to be sure that you have them in your schedule. Page 4, the monthly meetings. So again, they're in your schedule. And so here, these are the liaisons, and this was really very nice to see people immediately responding to signing up to be a liaison. Thank you very much. And we will help you as much and support you as much or as little as you want. And, we consider you partners, so please always tell us. So we do have, and I don't know, is that going to be you, Maren, the web liaison? Who do we send things to feed the website?
I'll be happy to help that process.
Okay. So you'll be happy to help, so we need someone else, is what you're saying? Because all the others have 2, right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So who else would like to help with that? Basically, we would provide the content, but someone would have to be on top of it so it looks alive, so it looks like it's moving, it looks like it's evolving.
Well, and would the content be similar on the web? Well, I guess similar. but-
Somewhat,
Yeah,
somewhat.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like thinking we could
Yeah.
do both.
Yeah, I can.
Would you
I can.
mind?
No, I don't mind.
Yeah, I can help as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, and it's similar messaging, so.
Yeah, just maybe, yeah.
Okay, now, signs. Rich signed up, but we're looking for a second person to help out in case he is out of town, not feeling well, or there are a lot of signs to carry.
Well, I've got a truck, so.
You have a truck?
I'll volunteer.
Perfect. Churches, Paul apparently has already been at it. But he could use some help reaching out to those churches. Basically, it would be letting them know what we're doing, giving them flyers, updates, and creating a list of contact people and then just sending it out. You don't have to go to church. And you also don't have to go to synagogue if you don't want to. I don't know if you have any other houses of worship.
Temple, whatever.
Yeah. Any takers? It's not a spiritual experience, it's just an email. It's just an email.
They turn into a spiritual
It
retreat.
could, if you wanted to,
The emails you sent were
Talk to
very
Paul
nice, by
about
the
that
way.
They were. John, you're going to help him?
John will help.
Well, I'll talk to him.
That means
Okay.
he's going to help.
Great, okay. So then we had talked about last time, seeing if there were any more organizations that you could think of, institutions, public, semi-public, nonprofit, ways that people organize themselves in Littleton, ways that we could send them a flyer and then they could let their people know if
You
you.
mean that list on page 5?
Yes, thank you.
Could I just mention, I just saw back on page 3, date of town meeting is May 1st.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's the first Monday.
May 1st. Thank you. That's important. So this list is going to be ongoing, so if we don't come up with it tonight, if you think of something, you just always let us know, and we'll just continue to add to it so that we can continue to let people know.
Before I forget, I might as well add, I don't see on the list, and I apologize if I miss it, there are like lakes associations for the
Yeah.
property owners that live around, like
That's right.
specifically where Melissa lives, is a very big Long Lake Association,
Yes, that's right.
Matawanaki Association, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Lake associations.
Paul, what about there was a private roads group.
That's right. Yeah.
Private roads group, huh?
Oh, yeah, they were very vocal when it came to plowing their sidewalks,
Really, I bet.
or not.
Or not.
I think they only convene if they need to.
On an as needed basis,
That's what
right?
you're proposing to them.
Right. That's a quick way to get 700 people in attendance.
We got an extra 200.
We could put that on the flyer.
It certainly,
Do it every time.
it certainly sparked interest last time around.
It's true.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else that comes to mind, or just once you look at it?
That list will grow in time. Everybody's
Yeah.
going to think of something
Yeah,
later on.
exactly.
When we just want to keep it updated as we go along.
Yeah, you got American Legion, just throw VFW on there, please.
VFW?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Veterans Farm Law.
Aren't they the same?
Yeah.
No,
No, different groups.
Yeah, different group, yeah.
most of us belong to both, but different groups.
So then, the rest of this is for whoever is the liaison to then have initial contact information, so you have a starting point. And then if you find more, you just let us know so we can keep this up to date. So basically, it's, whatever we're able to pull together for you to give you that starting point. On page 7, however, there's a category, community bulletin boards. We didn't talk about that. So where are places where there is a bulletin board, whether it be a public place or a private place, like a coffee shop or even some supermarkets have, where people go and actually look at these?
Donaldson's Market Basket.
Donaldson's, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
What about the Littleton dump?
There's also,
The dump?
and the grill, the bar on the corner of King and Great Road.
The bar?
The pub.
The pub.
Pub?
Sub shop.
Especially if you, especially if you attach it to the TV, too.
Is it not too dark in there?
Not great.
That's the whole idea.
I think the new restaurant, the Gallery Cafe, has a
Yes.
bulletin board on the way in the door, too.
Gallery Cafe?
Starbucks.
And also, although I don't know how many Littleton residents, there's a restaurant in the point behind everything. It's newly, I don't know its name, but I've eaten it twice.
Great Road Kitchen.
Yes.
What is it?
Great Road
Road
Kitchen.
Kitchen, Oyster Bar.
What about Market Basket?
Yeah, I think.
I bet they do.
But you could capture almost anybody at Little Peach on Saturday morning
Yes.
Yellow Peach.
at
yeah.
7 o'clock.
Oh, really?
Which is actually,
Coffee.
Oh, Tedeschi.
It offers another venue.
that's its real name.
It really is. I mean, if you want to reach out to the population.
Many other people too.
So then, we had talked about on page 9, thinking about email distribution lists. So
Can I
once
ask
it-
you a question on social media? I'm sorry I'm back
No,
on page
all
8,
right.
if that's okay.
Please, yeah.
So, so we have a whole list of pages that we all know and love out there on Facebook, and then some tips. Have everyone like, comment, and share the posting. So, any guidance, best practices, ideas, et cetera, for how to do that with this list of teams here? So we post something, how do we get the word out? Like, please repost,
So first of all, you sort of have to get a core group going, where people you know and love that will be interested, and give them the purpose, right? This is why you need to like it and repost.
Okay, so kind of gonna have to reach out to each one of these.
Well, or identify which ones you think are, each one of these is a lot.
Prioritize,
Yes,
yeah.
I think prioritize.
Yeah. Okay.
And there may be some, for example, the Littleton Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, they may receive specific ones. Do you know what I mean? When we get to talking about that. Because that's a lot for you to take on.
Sure
So I think
is.
priority, yeah. It's just wanted to give you the complete list
Okay.
as we saw it.
All right.
I can attest recently too with the Facebook that just they offer for a pretty minimal fee boosting your circulation.
That's right.
You know, for like $20 if you have a particular message, maybe not every message.
Yeah, not every message.
It'll take your
So we could do like
eyes
this.
viewing it from 100 to 1,000.
So for example, the announcement for the meeting, we could
Yeah.
do that one.
Yeah, really get behind it, okay.
But with no conservative messages.
Well, that's the conspiracy anyway. I don't know anything about that.
Glad
Okay,
you
Do you
introduced
want
that.
to say anything else about that?
no, thank you.
And this is not the end, it's only the beginning of the discussion. so.
Okay.
And we do have a little bit of money, so I mean, we could easily incur costs like that.
So in terms of the email distribution list, so these are lists that exist already that, an organization has, or sometimes individuals in town. They just like to talk to maybe, 50 people at a time, and they send them. So if you know of any of these existing lists, it would be
Where are
great.
you, what page?
We're on page 9.
Yeah, the LLNA definitely has a Yahoo group, for sure.
Which does, sorry?
The Long Lake Neighborhood
Was the
Association.
most powerful of all the schools.
Right.
The schools.
Park and Rec is a big one, too.
Parks and
Email
Rec.
list?
Yeah.
There's the Manawanaki Association.
Which one?
Manawanaki.
Maybe you're already thinking this, and if I missed it, I apologize. Give us that message, if you will, those 3 sentences, 4 sentences, that we can reach out to every one of these sorts. So that's the same one that goes
Oh, absolutely.
town-wide.
Absolutely.
Would you help us there, please?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, definitely.
He's very worried, okay, getting my approval.
Always sought the approval of
Well,
my
he's
dad.
good about.
Yes, I understand that.
He's good about getting
That's all right.
consensus.
And we'll also have a flyer too that can be linked on the website. So if you didn't want to include the entire flyer, you could just say, here's the link to on the Littleton Master Plan website for more information.
But it's also really great if you do feel comfortable to put the whole flyer in so that it pops out in full color and large font.
2 Twitter accounts I don't see there that I think ought to
Sorry?
be. The 2 Twitter accounts, if we're,
Oh, uh-huh.
one, I think the Lowell Sun and the Littleton Independent, both, a lot of people will follow those, and they, they push their stuff out a lot.
It's great.
Well, specific to the Lowell Sun, Melissa Hanson, who's our local reporter.
She does do a good job for us there.
Yep.
In terms of signs, we talked about having sandwich boards and that there was one on the common by the dump. How do you refer to your dump? Do you have a kind of a kinder name?
Transfer.
Yes. So we call ours too. It sounds great.
Nobody calls it that.
Because sometimes they call them resource recovery centers, which is a little bit, wow.
I guess that must be old-fashioned.
Well, let's see if you can come up with a longer name.
And then one, the sandwich board, exactly. Sandwich board by the high school. Are there any other signs that are municipal signs that you have access to that you could use?
Every once in a while, they have these electric, what do you call it?
Neon?
Banners.
Banner signs
Oh,
that are
right.
sitting up from the town, says.
Light and Water,
town meeting,
Light and Water Department runs
Yeah.
those.
I don't know if we have access to those, that would be helpful.
The temporary.
So
That's how you
who
treat
runs
them?
that?
The Light and Water Department control.
Oh, Light
Yeah.
I just have to ask that question because it's come up in other towns.
We own that process.
That'd be
That keeps
actually
you-
great before the kickoff meeting to have
Yeah,
a bit.
exactly,
And
exactly.
I think there are actually 2 of them scattered around town, at
Yeah,
least 2.
one up by Donald's and one by the post office, right
Yeah.
there.
Two.
You gotta book your sign time early.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this takes
We
priority.
got clout, right?
Bumping lights.
What does this?
Yeah, goodbye, Robin Hood, you're out of here.
What do those signs go for, do we know?
I've never done one.
Okay. So
So that's something to
I was
look
gonna ask
into.
the Rotary.
I'm going to see Savas tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So I'll ask him.
Savas, really? He's back?
Maybe you already said, are we allowed to put up overheads,
Banners?
Banners across
the banners that are across the that I
street?
see
That's
on
what we're talking about right now.
Huh?
That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay, I want to make sure
One in front of the post office.
in lights,
It's the
yeah.
movable feast. town activities.
Any other signs that you've seen used? Do you have any of those ones that flash?
Yeah,
We
the
do.
fire
Yeah,
department
the
has
highway
one.
department has
That's the ones I was
Oh,
after.
okay.
That's the ones I was after.
Now, these sandwich boards, since I have signed up for signs, these aren't the ones you wear, right? Just to be clear.
One of the suggestions I would put out there for locations is Russell Street,
So, location for a
like right at
banner?
the school, like at the middle school.
For a banner?
For not a banner per se, but signs. Like you could put the flashing sign up there if it would fit, or you
Yeah.
could put one of the sandwich boards. There's a tremendous amount of
Middle school
traffic.
does
Russell
have a
Street
sign.
near
Yeah.
the middle school.
The Russell Street Middle School campus.
That's got a LED in front.
Actually, it does, that's right. I forgot about that. Thank you, Rich, that's right. So we could just have the middle school principal program his sign, dude.
You might be able to do this.
I might be able to do that.
Being on the school committee as you are.
Depending on the PMBC, huh, for that sign up.
Okay, great.
We got a lot of heat on that one.
So, flyers, page 10.
I see one change on there. The restaurant I referenced, Gallery Cafe, that's what you have listed here as Act 3. Act 3 never made it to Act 4, all right?
Different name there.
And we missed Act 1 and 2.
That's right, that's right.
That's what happens.
Yeah. So, you want to be thinking about how to complete this list too, so that we can either put hard copies and/or email these flyers to all of these establishments.
Can we drive around town like the Blues Brothers did with a big speaker on the roof of the car?
I think that would be very effective.
I wouldn't do that.
I would do that.
Randall's already saying you
I
would
would
do
do
that.
that.
I'd do it.
And I would do it in a Dan Aykroyd voice. Blues Brothers, traveling review.
With some of the technology
That'll get
that we
them
have
there.
today, that might be possible.
That would be funny.
As long as you do it after 11 at night.
Yeah, exactly.
So two other things that we had talked about was, one, for people who can't come to the meeting, don't want to come to the meeting, don't feel comfortable coming to the meeting, we want to give them an opportunity as well. It's not going to be the same, because they're not going to get a presentation, they're not going to hear what other people have to say, but at least it'll give them a sense of what this is about and a feeling like they were able to say something. So often what we'll do is put up what we call comment boards, very large boards, either in the town hall and/or the library. 2 locations usually suffices. And asking questions, there are Post-it notes that people can. The thing is that because we're not here every day, someone has to make sure that they check on the boards every so often, that no profanity is used, that no individuals are called out, and that if it gets full, that, take them down. If it's missing, there's no more material, there's no more Post-its, there's no more pens, that, you provide them. So it would only be for 2 or 3 weeks, and maybe you need to check on it 3 times a week. Would there be anybody interested in doing that?
I can do that.
You can do that?
I can help if you.
Yeah, I'm in Littleton all day, every day. So. And I'm driving around anyway, so.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Yeah,
And we
let's
do
see if
it-
we can recruit friends to help with that, too.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. And then if that case, then you would supervise the friends.
Ooh, leadership position already.
I'm one of those guys who just thinks it's easier to do it myself.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we had talked about, but we had not actually had a live conversation, but more through email, was about youth involvement. And I had sent around some examples of how we might be able to involve youth. The thing is the timing. Right now, it's a difficult time of year to enter into the school system and ask them to incorporate this master plan cost into the curriculum. But there may be ways in an after-school program, some other location where youth are gathered, because I think asking teachers at this point would just not be fair, and they would just close the door. They wouldn't even answer the email.
At Camp Tehadawon, which is the town-run summer camp right here on, what is it, right on this location? Is what it's called?
Really?
They do it at Shaker
It's
Lane.
by the, I think it's by the lake.
Shaker Lane. They run in the Shaker
Come
Lane.
down, yeah.
How many families involved in that? Any idea? Anyone?
It's a significant
No,
number.
but there's lots of kids. lots of outlays.
Well, if you're looking for kids in the summertime from town. there's a lot of them.
What age group are you looking for?
So it could be anything. We have different activities for different age groups.
Because
It's a matter of
Camp de
getting
Hadawan would be
interest.
more like, elementary to 6th grade type kids.
1 to 6.
But, you know, like.
And
an
high
art project of
schoolers,
sorts,
it's good to
Huh?
get.
An art project of sorts.
Yeah,
Is that-
it's a
that's
good
something-
idea. For that audience, it's a good idea, and it's a good time of year in the sense that you're not butting up against a tremendous amount of programming. They might be actually more than happy to grab something and turn it into like that kind of
The
project.
kid takes it home.
Yep.
What did you call it?
An art project.
Can't.
An art project? Oh,
You know,
yes.
You know, maybe do 1 hour session, and I'm
Oh, absolutely.
freewheeling here. 1 hour session with the kids, and they come up with an
And
art project
actually,
and they take them home.
and then sometimes what we've done with that is use their drawings in the actual report. It's really
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
It makes a really nice touch. The other thing is community service. So maybe some kids that are trying to graduate that didn't gather all their community service, if we could give them some community service points for participating, and they could, we could support them in what they need to do, whether they do a survey of their peers or, there are all kinds of things they could do. But who would be able to talk to the community service coordinator at the high school and
We can
sort
talk
of
to
get
Nancy
through?
tomorrow morning. I'll see her. Nancy Morrison is our community service coordinator at the high school. And I'll see her at Rotary tomorrow morning so I can talk to her.
Oh, perfect.
Is September sufficient timing for that? Like for the older kids,
Yeah, sure.
I would argue that if you introduced it in the September, October timeframe, you might be able to, whether it's a survey or you could get a school-wide assembly. They do those for different reasons, and you might be able to get on the agenda for that. That would be a perfectly fine time of year to do it much better than this time of year, which is, like
How
you say.
about
it's not-
scouting? Gary LaCroix, who's not here tonight, he's active in the scouting program. There could be merit badge stuff and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, Gary volunteered to help coordinate with the schools.
Oh, perfect.
I'll volunteer, again, I'll volunteer since he's not here.
Yes,
That's how it works.
teach them to go to work.
So if everyone can do what they, we'll write up what you've said you'd do, but if you could all kind of follow up with that, especially if we could get some youth involvement at this point. I think the September, October, we could get more, but in order to see if we could get something now so that we can get their parents' attention for the June meeting, and to get just some youth there, it would be good.
You think it's too late to suggest that this is as part of a mentoring for a public service program? In other words, to make it, that would spill over not just now, but through the summer, being introduced to the process of how stuff gets done at local government?
Like civics.
Yes.
Isn't there a really good teacher up at the high school who, what's her name, Violet? That gets the kids going on civic activities? Can't remember her
I
name.
can't think of who you're talking about.
Yeah. He's married to her.
It seems like there's a relationship here, right?
I think that you might be able to get a core group of kids like that are actively engaged. I don't think you're gonna be able to do a very broad reach at this time of year.
So-
It's
so
just,
that's
there's
what I'm
just too
saying.
much
For
going
now,
on.
a core group would be good, and then later on, we could try for the broader.
Yeah, I think that the charrettes would be a good thing to get the kids
Yeah.
involved.
I
the older
very
kids.
good,
And that's
very
September,
good.
I mean, you have that in
Yep.
September.
Yeah, exactly. But it would be good to get whatever we could now so we can
So
get
they could,
something at the June meeting.
spread the word and get them excited.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we now turn to the branding? So,
Daphne, before you jump off, I think your list of churches is not complete.
oh, I'm sure it isn't,
Yeah,
right.
Because I know in town, we get Latter-day Saints, and then we don't have an Episcopal or Methodist or Jewish congregations in town, but a lot of people participate in congregations in Acton or wherever.
Oh, I see. So this was just to get you all started, so the people on the church or the houses of worship, I hope would be able to
I'll talk to you
fill
about
that in. Oh, he's talking to you
the
this evening.
churches earlier.
Reach out to them, yes, too.
So, as we talked about last time, because people are so busy, and because there are so many things going on, we like to brand the process, one, to get attention to it, the other to kind of give it importance so that, because a master plan really is an umbrella that pulls together so many other planning processes. So we want to give it that importance and sort of communicate that. And we also really, really don't like the term master plan. It just, so if it turns us off, imagine how much it turns other people off. So it really want to make it feel more accessible, more about me, everyday life, my future, my kids. We want to make it feel like it's something people want to be involved in and that they feel that they can be and they want to be. So the branding is about sending that message, but also being, attention grabbing. So these are all very, very preliminary ideas based on your input. And so I'd like you to take a minute and just go through and look at them. And as you look at them, jot down next to them, circle something you like, put an X through something you don't like. See if you can eliminate anything. If it's the font you like, the color, make sure that you note that, but it could be just that about one particular one.
I looked at it really quickly just now. I think that, isn't there something in the town that's more Littleton, like, I don't know, on the mill, there's the shape of the clock tower, whatever, I don't know if there's a clock tower. I feel like these don't really speak to Littleton very much.
'Cause this is
And I'm
from
not
the
saying that we
input
do something very
got.
complicated,
Yeah.
but, I mean, if you're not part of the process and you're trying to get people to be part of the process, there should be something more that they can look at and say, yes.
So can you give us some,
That was just my quick reaction
okay.
thought. I don't know anything
Okay.
specific,
Okay.
but just looking through these, I'm not really kind of feeling Littleton
okay.
at all. And
Okay.
that's
Okay.
just my own kind
Okay,
of
that's very
very
helpful.
2-second.
We need to know that.
I just got it.
Yeah. Well, this
you
is
know,
all
I mean,
based on input from the steering
I
committee, right?
like God and man here, but I just don't know if that's good.
I'm sorry, who?
This, or whoever these two
Michelangelo.
characters are here.
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
You're off in the wrong spot.
I mean, I think it's creative, but it's just not. Personally, it's not really doing it.
Okay,
Okay, that's helpful.
okay.
And if this is kind of the big thing, the
But
big
can you look
splash.
through, can you try the process this way? Sort of just look through and see if there's something. So try to eliminate altogether, also pull out. And also let everyone else do that too.
Yeah.
And then try to move forward. So, just a couple of minutes.
I have some shots of Picasso stuff in here. Here. From, was it MoMA? I forget where I saw it. I got it here.
It's a Picasso exhibit at the MFA.
There was a big exhibit in.
So the other thing is, in discussing, Paul and I had a discussion, and we agreed about trying to keep the words as few as possible. And sometimes that's tricky, but we have to work at it together. And keeping white space is important, and also the font is pretty important. So I did have an example of I did print out what Paul suggested as a font choice. We can look at that later. So, anyone want to give it a shot as to what they want to eliminate, what they think could work as even a component?
I think number one is so provocative, open to so many interpretations, that should draw people, what do they think they're doing? I have to find out.
I need to, yeah.
What do
I
they,
need
what
to
what is
read
meant by that? And when they see the master, if they have anything about planning in there, they're going to say, oh, this ought to be very interesting, and I'm sure that others who are used to Littleton more traditionally will be, either offended or put off, but they ought to be sufficiently angry also to show up.
Well, they'll, I mean,
And then if we put a picture of a sewage system going in, I think that would probably just about do it. Like we-
Well, I'll share, since Daphne was good enough to allow me to have some review of her ideas before tonight. We talked that this was, it's like, boy, isn't that great, but we wouldn't know what to do with it. But maybe you've reinforced the, that piece of it. So I'm back to considering that. But my other thoughts were, at least on the visuals, 3, 4, and 7. Probably more 7, but if the one on 4, I'd rather see more of a, if I were going to use something like that, a photo rather than a drawing.
Yeah, that's something I liked too, is the
For which
real
one?
apple.
Yeah,
There are
number
a lot
4.
of photos with,
And as far as the verbiage, there's 1,000 variations on a theme, but I think, what was the most recent one we were?
I think the most recent was here, Cultivating the Future, Littleton Master Plan.
Or how about Growing Littleton
Or-
Forward?
Yeah, oh, that's right, wait, I got that one too.
Oh, that's a good one.
Littleton
Growing
Growing
Littleton
Forward,
yeah.
Littleton Growing Together.
There is something to be, now that I'm looking at this one in a different light, if the apple was maybe something,
Yeah.
not so poorly photoshopped.
JPEG, yeah.
Well, this is just.
Because
for the
there's something to be said about like, what the hell what are they talking about here? This is crazy.
It's golden.
It could be like one
I'm
of.
sure Michelangelo has done an apple somewhere that we could Photoshop out. Why not?
It's actually,
Or we
Not
could
where you
take-
would like it placed.
Yeah, right.
Or we could take an actual photo of an apple.
actually, it could be, that one I think does have merit to it, actually. I'm surprised.
holy Moses. Have we all lost it? Have we lost it?
What's that?
You ever been to the Sistine Chapel, Rich? It's
Have we lost it?
terrific. It's like a big VFW
That's exactly the
hall with
reaction
art
I
on the
think would be
ceiling.
Perfect.
Would you allow me to draw something on the board?
Yes.
Remember, I'm not an artist, folks. But
I guess I might,
Just a little
maybe conservative, but
All right.
Number 4.
This is conceptual, folks.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Number 4, have a
And here's the apple. Pretend that's an
I think
apple.
that would be good too.
An adult passing the apple to the child.
That's a nice one. yeah.
So, it's the future, if you will. I don't have words to go with it yet.
Well, the words, I think,
Put that on my
Paul's words
back
were
windshield.
Littleton Growing Together.
No, the one I prefer anyway is,
Forward.
Growing forward.
Littleton Growing Forward. Although,
I like that. I like that. So let's put
So
that.
get your hand to hand and an apple in the hands.
Are you thinking drawing or
Perhaps a little less
photograph?
provocatively. I don't know the answer. Actually, what I was thinking, unisex. So, drawing. So it's not a man to a boy, a man to a daughter, whatever.
Yeah, we gotta stay away from that.
Yeah,
And away from bathrooms too.
But sincerely, I thought as a unisex, you're using graphic artistry rather than photos of actual people. So it's more symbolic, if you will.
I'd be interested to see how you pull that off.
Yeah, no, that'd be kind of.
Well, I would have an artist do it.
Well, then why don't we go back to the hand, a adult's hand handing the apple to a child's hand, then the sexes are out of the picture and we're back to,
Hand to hand.
That's,
and get the bodies right out of it.
so it's just the.
Sort of like this,
the-
yeah.
I think that's a good idea. That
Wrist
makes a lot
area,
of
whatever.
Huh?
And a large, can you use the large
And no
masculine
coloring
hand,
in
a small delicate feminine
No
hand?
coloring.
Or you can be curiously ambiguous.
Where? I would not go for that's too ambiguous, but that's okay.
And, you know, the,
I don't have to worry about any copyright things from Michelangelo, right? That's on there. Don't want the Vatican coming after us.
no one's talking about number 5. I thought number 5 was pretty cool. It had a great message, and I was thinking the apple last week, but just, we're a farming community, and that's what everybody's talking about. This is cool. Whoever drew this one, I like it.
Which one?
5.
5.
But red's a good color. getting people's attention.
Well, we can recolor things.
Okay, what do we?
I don't want a Granny Smith, do we?
Yeah, right.
Japanese maple syrup.
Great,
Delicious.
What is Rich saying?
yeah, no, it's a capturing, the comment there, cultivating the future, that's the, it's saying, what
Well, these
we're
titles
doing
don't have to go with the images either. It's a mix and match type of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah, that's why I was saying, circle what you like.
Well, what if
It
it's,
might not
what
be
if
the
it's
whole.
the tree gets handed off to a younger kid or something, you know, it's staying with that concept, only could be anything. Could we have more than one? Could it be an apple or an ant?
planting it.
One, or plant, or,
Two hands planting it,
or planting it, sure, a
Yeah,
big one
maybe
and a little
planting is
hand.
better.
Yeah.
and then you get your tree, you got cultivator.
We don't want the image to be too
Medical
complicated.
marijuana,
That's
that's what people immediately assume, looking at it.
Yeah, I'd be careful with that particular one, but, although,
Yeah,
Or the
another
adult
year,
planting
totally
and the
legal.
kid watering.
But it ought to be simple enough too, an image that it can be replicated, as someone said, for a little, sticker in the back window of a car or whatever, so that as soon as you see it.
black and white.
And, yeah,
So we
right.
gotta be careful, we can't make it too complicated.
Right.
So suppose we took the, the three contenders after we tinker,
Right?
and we follow up with your path, and we present them at the first public meeting.
Oh,
Can make that one of the events.
And assume a leadership position.
They could make it one of the events, they could vote on it.
that's actually a very nice idea. I don't know how everybody else thinks, but I just said how I thought.
no, that way it's bounded,
Yeah.
it's scoped.
Yeah.
We've got it in a lane.
And
He's using
people
your-
have a choice.
He's using your vocabulary, did you notice?
My son does that. But he breaks away from time to time. I'm glad.
I like that idea, okay.
You could offer $100 towards the scholarship of a kid who comes up with the best drawing.
Then we'll be waiting too long to,
That's the
we could do
problem.
a scholarship thing for some other artwork later on down the road. I don't mind that idea, but these folks need, I think they're correct in wanting to get sooner rather than later a branding. thing.
Because we certainly want to keep things rolling. Are we,
Yeah,
do we have a
suggested this is
consensus, as Mike suggested, whether it's 3 or 4, whatever seems appropriate, based on the inputs you just received from us, to come up with those symbols,
So, we'll just-
icons,
Logo.
logos?
So let's just be explicit. So we have a couple of votes for number 7. Then number 5 with some alternatives, maybe the 2 hands planting the tree or the little kids, or the little kid watering it. And I don't know what to do about number 1.
Well, one is,
Maybe
or one is those modified, I
Right,
think, is
right.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think one's a standalone
Okay,
provocateur.
okay, so we'll leave the provocateur.
Or one variation of,
With the better,
one variation of it.
We're not gonna spend hours on it and
No,
then
you
have you
can't.
say,
Yeah,
forget it.
yeah.
It seems the concepts that
An
we've come
adult
up
hand, a
with.
child's hand, I thought was where
Yeah,
we were.
we've come up with the 2 hands, for
Yeah, the
sure.
2 hands and the 2 people.
Adult, child.
Right.
Well, not necessarily people, maybe just hands.
2 hands.
Right.
And also, I'd like to point out, number 4 and number 5, regardless, both of those in varying, slightly different forms are already on ads running on both, all the cable channels for one organization or another, which, thank God I don't remember which ones, but I do know a hospital has one of them.
Oh, so 4 and 5.
Yeah, 4 and 5 are already, there are already things out there with fruits or something else in the hand, and already part of a big logo that you see as part of the presentation, and so is number 5.
I think, though, we've got to a point where we're not using any one of these.
Exactly.
Right, no, I'm just saying that the format is, will
Right.
trigger,
And then just 2 more things before we move on. So, the wording.
Hold on, I don't know that we're done with the symbols yet.
Okay,
I want to make sure we are. We're in agreement, we'd like to see something with hands, adult, child hand. We'd like an apple, maybe, vegetation, it's a tree or whatever,
right.
some offshoot of that. Do we want any full-bodied symbols? Full body symbol? Stop at the hand.
The hand.
Yeah, hand
Okay.
is fine.
That's good. Is there any more broad guidance we'd like to give, Daphne?
Just on the image part?
Yeah, just an image for the moment.
the first one as is ought to remain on the table for, for a little while.
I guess it'd be provocative, as Mike says.
Got the
I
most
like it. This is,
discussion.
actually, if you could read a lot into that, in
Right.
terms of what that means.
Yeah, okay,
We
we'll
could
stop
ask
there.
people to tell us what they read into.
Yeah.
That could be one of the questions.
Remember, we're
Okay,
looking
so
for
we
something
got,
that
so
sells
we
the
got
town.
one, variations on 5 and
the town.
4, the hands and the tree. And then what about 7? Have we taken that away now?
Yeah, no need of that. I mean, the others are,
The others are about that, right?
It's a sad one,
I mean, what you're bringing together is pieces of each of these.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
right.
So-
exactly.
And give us
Okay,
a few
so-
options there, please.
Oh, definitely. And then wording. Any wording you would like to take away, make sure remains?
I just have a comment. You said you didn't like the word master plan. I was wondering if you're doing something like cultivating the future, could you put planning Littleton 2030 instead of, I mean, do you need to have the master plan words exactly, is a question.
So
Well, that's actually kind of,
cultivating the future, say the words again?
Well, I'm just picking one of them
Yeah.
where it's that, but just instead of master plan 2030, say planning Littleton 2030.
planting can be burying though, so that.
Or no, planning.
Planning,
Planting,
planning.
oh, okay.
good idea,
Only the
good
graphics
idea.
do the planting.
We're gonna plant
That's
fall.
nice.
I think that's kind of nice because
That's
the
very
planning
nice.
is sort of an action, like, it's an action that's,
Yeah.
you're
It's not-
planning.
right, you're
something.
planning.
It's not a
Right,
thing, it's,
It's an action that,
and-
But this is the process that we're branding.
right.
So
yeah,
it is, it's
yeah.
very, it's good. I like
Yeah,
that.
we spoke that, and that's, I think, the first time you brought it up tonight. Please expand on that so we all
Yes.
understand that.
So this is only going to last the lifetime of this process. This is not anything about branding Littleton. So it's important, but it's not critical. This, as soon as this is over, it's going to be on all of the documents, it's going to be on any T-shirts you might wear, I don't know. But it's not going to outlive the life of this master planning process.
At
So,
least that's not the plan.
Right.
If we develop something that's so ingenious and wonderful, everybody in town goes, this is Littleton, and
Right.
it endures for the next 300 years.
Right.
Super. I'd be hopeful.
that'd be nice. So,
This might outlive the process.
Is that late on a Saturday night after a couple of glasses of wine? Or when did that one come up?
Okay, moving on.
okay, okay, any preference on color of the font? Or we'll just leave that until
I
later?
think the design first. and then-
Just do that. Okay. All right, so, I can't see the clock.
Okay, was there anything else we wanted to say about words?
I like growing Littleton forward, but those variations on it, it's gonna come down to what everybody likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Agree.
There was a symbol on the side of the old middle school, a round symbol that had some sort of a Littleton design in it.
Well, that's the town seal, is that what you're referring to?
Is that the town seal?
Right over there on the bottom of the banner over there, too. John Elliott and John Tejada on.
Was that what that seal was that was on the middle school?
Yeah, I used to have one of those, in my memory, it was.
We still have that somewhere.
It's on every truck.
Right.
I mean, the ceramic piece that came out of the building. It's in the
Let's do
trailer.
this. Yeah, see if you can track that down, that might be a good idea. All right, Daphne.
So now we want to talk about the upcoming meeting. And we want to talk about the format, and then we want to talk about the logistics, and lastly, we want to talk about the outreach, so those 3 pieces. So let's start with the format. So you should all have the annotated
Annotated meeting outline.
agenda.
Probably number 1.
So the first thing is going to be the food and refreshments. And Paul, you had some ideas about that, or you had done some?
Yeah, we're all happy for food, right? You use that as an attraction. What I've seen John Overcash, the food and beverage manager for the school department, what he's done in the past, we have the senior dinners like, is puts out a very simple pasta meal with a salad and a little soup to go afterwards. Now, my thought was, and you guys see what you think, because another option is like finger food, so that people can up and walk around. My thought was, the reason for the sit-down portion is it's now everybody is sitting down, and it's an opportunity to address the crowd as they're reading. And even before we actually start doing any kind of formal presentation, if you want to use that term, people at the table will have already had some introduction at this point, and they're able to converse amongst themselves as to
Right,
why
know
they're
one
in that
another.
evening.
That's right.
So that was my thought, folks, on that.
You can have like a discussion question on a card for them. There's all kinds of things you can do if they're at the
Yeah.
table together.
So, discussion?
Yeah, I
Fine with
think,
me.
sorry, Mike. I think that makes sense. I'm just throwing it out there. Long Lake, their last annual meeting got Moe's Catering, and it was really, really good. There's lots of variety there, so just throwing it out. But I like concept of sitting down. Agree.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Sitting down is big.
All right. All right, let's press with that then, Maren, please, when you speak with John.
So if it's a simple sit-down,
Yeah, it's because you did bring up another option on the catering. Do you remember what the cost was?
I jump, but I can easily get that one.
Would you work with Maren then? Would you mind?
Not at all.
And then pick the best alternative to that. Remember, we're doing it at the middle school, so
Yeah.
is that okay with you, Mike?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
so that's great. And if it's a simple sit-down, then that works really well with what we had in mind. We were a little bit worried if it was going to be too elaborate, then people would just get stuck and eat and, get weighted down into their seats. Because what we would like for them to do is spend about half an hour in their seats and half an hour out of their seats. So it's good for digestion as well. So we will have a series of booths, sort of stations around the room. And then the other thing is like a networking sheet where we say, find someone you don't know in the room and ask them this question. And then write it down and then give it to us. So that, trying to get people to cross over to other interest groups.
Yep.
So if you look now on the first page, each of these activity stations will be further developed, but these are just our preliminary thoughts at this point. One is a station where we have a wall that's actually sticky. We adhere a sticky surface to the wall. And then we have just a piece of paper where we ask people, it's actually on the back of their agenda, and it says, what makes Littleton unique? And then they write that down, and all they do is they put it like this on the wall, and then it's a collection of those thoughts. And then other people can walk up to it and say, oh, look at that, oh, look at that. So that's the What Makes Littleton Unique station. And that's actually an important part of the master planning process, because part of a master plan is to identify the features that make a community unique and try to preserve and enhance those. So we want to understand what people's perceptions are and what people then, feel this is part of the vision, right? So that's the first station. And when I say first, they're not in any particular order, and people are not going to be going 1, 2, 3. They'll just go as they like. So another one is a large map. It's where do you live, work, shop, and play. They want to show how much of their activities take place in Littleton, how much outside of Littleton, and how far. And then that, of course, is related to many things. It's related to community gathering, it's related to transportation, it's related to employment, it's related to social capital, it's all kinds of things. Tell us and show us locations in Littleton that would benefit from a deeper dive. So there'll be, again, a map, and all of these stations are staffed. So there'll be people there, us and you, so that if people have questions, and we can explain to them what we're asking, and if they have questions, we can respond. So this third station, is really about helping us to identify where should we do those charrettes in the fall. Now, we've so far gotten a lot of feedback that the first one should be on the town center, but let's see what happens at this meeting. And then let's see what the second one seems to want to be. And again, just, once we get all that, it's one input, right? That it's a big one, the public's input, but all of us then have to talk about it and filter it through. Then the fourth one, preservation and development. Here again is a big map and asking people, what parts of town in general do you feel should be preserved physically, and what parts should be changed in terms of accepting new or development or redevelopment?
Do you plan to have photos in
Yes.
addition to for this one?
Yes.
In addition to, okay, good.
So now, this is about the physical character. So the first one about being unique could be anything. A lot of people do talk about the physical character when asked that question, but not only. But this last one is only about the physical character, and there'll be photos for people to react to.
Where will you get the photos from?
So Peter will be taking them. And he may, I don't know if he may want to reach out to you if any of you have photos that you might want to contribute to that.
Peter who? Is-
Finkel, he's on our team.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wonder whether maybe you want to touch base with the Historic Society too, see if they might have, they have a collection of photos, just to see if there's some other existing images there. I don't know if you just all want current stuff that's
We're thinking mostly
understandable.
current
Yeah,
because we're
all right.
trying to identify, what makes up the character and then how do you preserve that and how do you fit into that with redevelopment?
Yep.
So if any, do any of you have photos or would like to go out on a nice day and take some and send them to Peter? Very enthusiastic about photography.
Isn't there
I
a
can
book?
take them, I don't know if you're going to use them, so
Oh.
we'll see what.
Yeah,
All right, homework assignment. Everybody on the committee give 5 photos, send them to Maren
perfect.
this next week, please.
And they can't all be of the lake.
300
I know, that's my problem. I have 400 pictures of the same
old
lady.
pictures contrasted with modern pictures of the same scene.
What picture of my cat?
But are those of what makes up the character?
Yeah, I mean, they're all,
Really?
they're buildings and views in town.
Okay, so we'll tell them about that.
Yeah.
But in addition, it would be great if you could take what you think makes up the character, like the 5 photos.
Yeah, we do that. In fact, it's almost a good social science experiment, too.
It is.
Because we all think we have different thoughts and ideas, and it'd be interesting to see, it'd be 60 photos if I did math properly here, and how many differences, if there's 60 distinctly different photos or 60 similar photos.
Right. It would be interesting.
And what form should these be delivered in? You want them as prints, or do you want them on?
Digital.
Digital.
JPEG.
Oh, yeah. Not raw.
So then after people have eaten and met one new person and visited these stations and given us their input and spoken to a few of us, then we'll do a short introduction about why the town is doing a master plan update, what is that, why is that important, and then a sort of an overview of what is a master plan. And then we break up into small groups. And so in each of those small groups, we need a facilitator and we need a scribe. So all of us will be there, but we like to be able to float around and to be supportive to all the groups and if somebody needs us to come in. So my first question is there anyone who knows right now that they're not going to be able to make it that night?
13.
13th.
My calendar.
Monday.
Tuesday.
Everybody's available.
What's a Monday?
It's Monday.
Second
drop that.
question, has anyone here facilitated before? Okay. So as you know, the main goal of facilitation is to manage the group, is to get everyone who wants a turn, a turn, and to make sure that nobody dominates, to make sure that you come out with something to tell the rest of us, so that the conversation just doesn't go all over. It remains focused, and you want to get it through, you want to be aware of time, and you want to make it through to the end. So you have to have someone there keeping time for you and keeping rhythm, so telling you 10 minutes is up. Now, you may find that in that particular question, your group would like to spend a little more, but then you need to be cognizant, you need to make up for it in the next question. You don't want to have the evening end and your group not make it through to the end of the question. And it doesn't work in terms of saying that the public said this, because we can only say part of the public who participated said this. What would the rest have said? We don't know. So it's very important that you will be given very specific instructions. You don't need to know anything, because this is all about very open-ended questions, and it's about people's perceptions, about their concerns, their desires. So you don't need to know anything. You just need to be curious, and you need to be supportive to people who feel shy, and you need to be stern with people who are dominant. And that's your role. And because that's your role, you don't need to feel badly about telling someone, we've already heard from you, sir. We've written it down, it's somebody else's turn now. So if we could meet half an hour before, we could have a little training, go through the instructions. You will receive the instructions ahead of time. And you can also feel free to call if you have questions or ask questions on email, if you don't feel comfortable with something or you want a clarification. But you will receive them ahead of time. You can talk about them with me ahead of time, and also we'll meet half an hour ahead of time. And it's very important that you take your role seriously, because it is really about helping people to be civic-minded, because we want them to come out of their everyday. I remember once when we asked somebody, what is your biggest concern? And they said that the mailbox was too far from their home. And I said, no, we're talking about the town, right? So you've got to keep people focused, and you've got to keep the conversation relevant. And if it gets irrelevant, you just have a little box at the top, and you just mark it down so that they feel like you heard them. It's very important that people feel that they're heard. And then we will listen once they've been heard. So it really is an important role. And I'm very happy that you've all accepted to take it.
So Maren, post it as a public meeting, starting at 5:20. We'll all meet at the cafeteria. We'll huddle, make sure we're all set and ready, so at 5:30, Daphne can give us instructions, and we can press ahead. Okay?
And then you're going to pair up, because one person will be doing the facilitating, the other person will be doing the scribing. And usually the scribe is the one who writes it up. So what they write up is just everything that was said. No summarizing, no interpreting, just the way it's there.
Transcript, yeah.
And then there are some prioritization exercises where we give dots for people to say they care more about this and that. So you count up all the dots on all the responses. So it's important that this be done this way, because that's the only way we can compile and have it be actually fair and accurate. And it's very true that people really care when they see that you've done it that way, because it helps them, you demonstrate that you've listened. So it's very important that you write everything down, you type everything up, and you count up all of the responses. So, and this will be very, very, detailed instructions to you, so don't worry that, but I just want you to know that it is important to not just go off in another direction. So, some of the questions we'll be answering are very simple, direct, intuitive questions that are very conversational, and it's a way of getting at people's values. And it's our job to interpret them into planning. It's not people's job to think about what does that mean in terms of planning, not just yet. Later on, as we move through the process, we will be kind of educating people along. But right now, we're inviting people to have dinner and tell us what they think. So we don't expect them to be speaking in plannerly ways. We just expect them to tell us, what do they like about living here? What don't they like about living here? What do they see that concerns them? What do they see that they would really, they've seen somewhere else and they wish were happening here? Kind of things that they would converse about with their friends and family and neighbors. And then it's up to us to pull that together into a planning kind of way. So,
Excuse me, I assume you have a sequence of questions?
absolutely,
Okay,
and they build
okay.
on each other.
Okay.
And then the other thing is that some of those questions, we ask people to prioritize. And the way we do that is we give each person 5 dots.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to use, they must use all 5. And they're allowed to use no more than 3 on any one item, because if they do that, then they kind of skew things, so that one person could skew it too much. So if they really, really think that the lakes and the cleanliness of the lakes is of utmost importance, then they can use 3 dots. But then they only have 2 left, so they can only do either one more thing that they care about a lot, or 2 more things they care about equally. Or they could do 5 separate things they care about. So that's how we do it. And not all the questions are prioritized, but the ones that are done that way. And then we want to know all the dots, what they add up to. And then at the very end, the report back is not a free-for-all. It's not a free flow, it's not a free association. The report back is also very specific, because we want to keep targeted. And we will ask the facilitators to ask the people in the group if they would like to do the report back. And if not, then one of you committee members has to do it. And that's also, there'll be 3 things you'll be asked to report back on, which is what are people's priorities in these 3 questions. And that's it. So it stays very focused and it stays on time. So that's the general format. And then we'll do a wrap-up and the next steps, so people know that they're not going to be left hanging. And Eric put together this illustrated, so you can have some visuals about what it could look like. Because in each case, it looks a little bit different, the culture of the place and.
Are there any questions on the format, folks?
Just actually a comment. You asked if who's not going to be there. I'm planning to, but I work at night, so I'm not so sure. I need permission.
Can you let us know?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we might want to ask if you know some of the friends. Not everyone can be a facilitator. Some people's personalities are not.
Facilitator.
Yeah. So if you know of some friends who would be good at it, mostly remaining curious, open, not telling giving their opinions, and being, and listening. Managing the group, making sure everyone has a turn, that kind of thing.
Aaron, please share the list that you have now with all of us. Yeah, so that we each know now who's been listed as a friend.
Yeah, I've got the names, I don't have it pulled together yet.
Oh, no. I mean, it's not a drop-dead thing over the next couple of days, but, probably by next week or so.
So, and the way it is now, we have enough for 5 groups, and we usually like to have between 8 and 12 people per table. So, I mean, depending on the turnout, we might need some extra facilitators just as backup.
That's it, we'll work on the friends a little bit, and
That would be great.
other officials in town, too, who will be present that evening. We can enlist their
But they need
aid.
to have,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
Because sometimes people come right in and then they think it's their chance to tell people what they think.
That's kind of what I was wondering, was how this is being titled, aside from first public meeting or public meeting number 1.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a flyer. We're
And
gonna
just so
kind of-
people know why they're going. I
Right.
think that's really important, because then obviously it'll be a more productive
Exactly.
meeting.
Well, we frame it, and we always put the purpose on the flyer,
Right.
what is the purpose of the meeting? And this particular meeting is about coming up with a common vision and a shared set of goals. And they're overall townwide. So that's what the purpose is, and we will be articulating
Right,
that.
making that really clear,
Yes.
so that people don't come with their own
Right.
agenda, that
They'll come with their own agenda
they will
anyway.
anyway.
But you can
But-
point and say, this is
Exactly.
kind of what we're doing today.
Exactly.
And that segues to, because I've already asked you to come up with those 3 or 4 sentences, whatever it
Yes.
is, for the overall, that we
Right.
can all use, so we're same message. But similarly to this, if you get us to that purpose statement, that again, early on, so we're not waiting to that evening to present the purpose.
Oh, no.
No, I
We
think
will be
you're
getting that
exactly-
in a
people
week.
need to know.
We'll be giving that to you in a week's time.
Super.
Because you need the flyer.
Right, you're gonna distribute all this.
That's
It
what I'm
might
asking,
make
that we
them-
use that consistent message. Anything you want to add on top, for sure.
Right, exactly.
But I think also being clear, it'll either make more people want to come because they'll understand it, or they'll wait till a later meeting when they
Right,
can
when
come
they
and do
can
what
come
they
to
want.
the, for their
Right.
particular.
Emphasize the free dinner.
Is the logo going to be ready by then?
Well, the alternatives will be, because as per your recommendation, we will be asking people to weigh in.
Yeah, because I was trying to tie the logo in with with the overall goal and purpose. Somehow the logo and it got to be, to me, brought together.
So we can even mention that.
Yeah, complimentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the idea, yeah.
And the other thing is, that I did forget to mention, is that also there is a set of ground rules at each table that you will be reading to people, and that they will help you to make sure that the conversations stay on track. So, let's see.
So before we get off that evening, where are we with babysitting? Have we been able to make any more
Oh,
inroads?
I was gonna,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we get any response from the schools yet? Or have we not?
Yeah, you haven't had that discussion. Do you want, what's, the last question is is there
Okay.
enough benefit?
I wonder how it went on town meeting. I never even noticed.
No, we did ask about that. Keith can give us
Oh,
some
okay,
information there. There was 8 to 12 kids, as I recall, right? In that email, Kelly said 8 to 12. Did I remember that right? As far as school kids, when I say school kids, the sophomores who actually were the babysitters. I didn't get the information from Kelly on how many children used it or how many parents used it.
Okay.
So I don't know that, how many families.
Right, and then that'll necessitate one more room at the middle school.
22 children range from 1 year to 12.
Are we planning on using the gym for our purposes?
That's what we had said.
It's always removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, down the corridor. Okay, I think babysitting, we should offer it, folks.
Yeah, we should offer it.
At the very least.
I think that it's, even when people don't use it, it's a very nice gesture.
And weather permitting, we might be able to just do it outside, too.
Now, that's a budget concern, because the way it was approached with town meeting is the town offered a $500 donation to the sophomore class, who will be juniors next year, is that correct?
The superintendent requested a $500 donation. Senior class, and I agreed. Maybe an offer I couldn't refuse.
Good for him.
You responded to the offer for the request.
I didn't know they did that up in
So maybe we ought
Canada.
to make a similar.
It's universal, I guess, right?
So are we prepared to go that high, folks? This
Well, we may also be able to, say, look, not every time you're gonna get the same rate. We may be able to get some economy of scale, is my point. So let me see what I can do.
Okay,
What
here's,
about crediting the kids for, towards their...
Community service.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll have a talk with them.
here's what I'd like to do then, is
Double your hours.
I'd like to hear a motion for up to $500 for Mike to be able to negotiate with the school committee chairman on how much the schools will charge us.
So moved if necessary.
So moved.
But very seriously, somebody make the motion that Mike take the lead, negotiate with the school department to get babysitters.
Moved.
Okay?
Second.
Moved and seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So Paul, may I ask just for clarification, so does that mean that it's definitely happening? We can
Yes.
include it on the flyer?
Please.
Because we need to.
It'll happen.
Oh, yeah.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
So similarly, the other question is with regard to the raffle. Because if we're having a raffle, we need to put it on the flyer, otherwise there's no point in having the
Do
raffle.
we need a one-time selectman approval?
It's a free raffle, right?
It's a free raffle.
So I don't think you do for those, it's just for the
I don't
ones
think
you-
so.
Okay, asked and
because we've
answered.
Never had to.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
So that means that you have to find things for us to raffle.
Okay, no.
So they could be town, maybe there's a book with trails in the town that the town sells, or maybe there's something with apples on it. Or it could be for gift certificates to area restaurants, shops. It doesn't have to be that many. I mean, 3 would probably be a minimum. We've had towns go wild and go, all the way up to 23, but that's a little over the top. And you might want to also think about
You
doing
won those books
this.
from the 300th, right?
Right.
Oh, there you go.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Price to move.
And then also, you might want to think about the fact that we'll be having other meetings as well, where we want to continue. If we start the raffle tradition, we want to continue it, so we want to, even, if you get a lot now, we might not give them all out
Right.
at this time. So if you can commit that you think we can gather at least 3 things, then we'll put it on the flyer, because the point of having it is attracting people, so.
Okay. All right, let's see if we can get a commitment here, because we need folks to do that. Okay, help me remember, who has any inroads with the Historical Society? Is it the Society or the Commission that has the books? And I apologize, I forget.
That's a society, I think.
Okay. You're killing me over there.
Certificates, for example, I was thinking of families, to make it attractive to families. And going out to dinner, even to a Mexican restaurant that has the lowest bottom, or whatever restaurant it is tough. So given the fact that we have so many restaurants opening up, they might be very eager to flash their
Very good
wares.
idea, very good idea. And they should be told that we also will, we will say that they've done so.
Well, it'll be on their
Exactly.
gizmo that
Yeah.
they,
Just opened.
Okay, because no good idea goes unpunished.
Maybe a night in the hotel that just opened up.
well, let's not push it. That's what IBM's gonna fill up that place overnight. Or, excuse me,
It's already filled up for the
HP.
weekends.
Oh, of course it is. $4.95.
Mike, can you run with some of the restaurants in town then?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
Having a quick chat. Yep.
Okay, so Mike's going to look for restaurant gift certificates.
I'm
Okay.
gonna take historical.
And I'll tell them what it's for.
I'm gonna take the historical, the book.
Would you please? Thank you.
Of course.
Carolyn Mueller might be.
Yeah, Carolyn, yeah.
I did buy the book once, so there's my good graces of,
I bought 2, so.
there you go, right.
It's a good book.
All right, so we talked about some restaurants, and the book, because it's 300.
Yeah, the book
so
is great,
that just
yeah.
makes a good one for the town. Any other items or things? you-
Sometimes, we did, last month, people actually brought things from their homes that they weren't using anymore. I don't know if that's, sort of a recycling, I don't know, that was the first time it happened, but it was kind of nice.
How about something from our farm stands?
Oh, that's a great
Like a
idea.
fruit basket or something?
Yeah.
A fruit
Can you run with
basket.
that?
That's a really
Thank you.
good idea.
Yeah, it was,
Food stands. Would it be-
The other thing we could do is we could poll the youth athletic groups and get like 5 registrations, like one for each sport type of thing.
Perfect.
You know, like a family that has multiple kids playing multiple sports would get them all. So they get like almost one for a year of youth sports registrations.
That's really
you got the
good.
stick?
Hmm?
You got the stick?
I can do that, yep.
Thank you.
That's Mike. Wine is always appreciated.
You know you always appreciate it.
Do we really have to do this?
It helps people.
Oh, that's a wine.
I got it.
Fell right into it.
Look it up.
So the checklist,
Missed me, didn't you? Did to make do with me.
so I'll send you a checklist of materials and supplies, for like the, details. But we need to make sure that we have audio visual, that we have at least 2 microphones that are cordless.
Okay, yeah. If you
All that
write
stuff.
that up,
Yeah, it's all
I'll be
written
able to
down.
Send it
Yeah.
to the schools.
Okay, so that'll be perfect. And then in terms of the refreshments, we want to make sure that we put in big letters who is providing it, have tablecloths, have utensils, so someone needs to take care of all that.
Okay, so we got to set the tables, got you on that.
Do we want a cable televised, and maybe tape, you already saw that?
Yeah.
No, hold on, because I agree with you. But let's take
Yeah.
care of the logistics of this piece first. Okay, need somebody to step forward and say that they'll be the maitre d'.
In terms of,
I don't have any idea what that is.
Make sure the tables are set, tablecloths, any
So there are
signs.
utensils, there's cups, there's a big
Okay.
sign
You're
that
gonna have
says,
help, but it just,
Yeah.
POC.
Okay.
and on the buffet, that there's a sign that says thank you to whoever it is that
Right.
provided the food.
Okay.
But it's just, we're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
The committee, so
Oh,
it's
I
gonna be the
see.
town of Littleton, courtesy of the town of
All
Littleton.
right, thank you to the town of Littleton.
Yeah, that's my thought, folks.
And there will be at least one cafeteria staff available to help set up.
That's
Oh,
great.
That's wonderful.
And in a little while, we'll vote on a budget too for the food, because that's an expense we have to vote on.
The planning board has to.
Well, if Mike does his job, we might be able to get it catered by some of these new restaurants coming in.
Thought about that, but I chatted with one of them already. Not ready for that.
Well, let's see if we can show them down for a couple of days.
Continue, I'm sorry.
So, to the cable TV question, we will have a presentation, which would be good for people to see, and then maybe the cable TV can zoom in on some, after the dinner, they can zoom in on some of the maps and show what people have done. And then sometimes they go just for a short while to the small tables, but not hang around too long because it affects people and what they say.
What you could do too, graphics that you think are complementary to a particular portion, if you provide those, PowerPoint, because they can integrate them quite
Exactly,
easily.
that's what we were talking about,
Yeah.
exactly.
definitely do that.
All right.
And then we like to ask them to stay till the end if they can, even if they have a kind of a little bit of a break, because at the end, during the report back, that's when people can really hear what happened. So if they can do that, that would be great, even though that makes them a little idle for a little bit.
Yeah, we got a great LCTV team here.
Okay.
you know.
And then there's the outreach, so all the things that we talked about in the beginning, in the public participation plan, and each of you have your role. Once we send you the message, the flyer, the 3 to 4 sentences, then you've got to run with
You
it
activate.
Yeah.
Yep.
in each of your ways. And any help you need or any questions you have, just let us know, and we'll support you in any way we can.
And that's something that we do have to execute on that piece, folks. So as soon as we get it, Merrill, disseminated to us and
And then get those friends to help.
it'd be the prize to the one who posts first. How's that? Last one to post is a rotten egg? All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I think you were going to ask a question about the food.
Yeah, so, do you remember the senior lunch, how much it cost, dinner, how much it cost
No.
each one? It
No.
seems like it was $2.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It wasn't a heck of a lot of money per person. It was relatively inexpensive. It was very inexpensive on an absolute scale. I'd like us to have enough latitude, and $500, I think, provides enough latitude. And you want more, you think more?
I did get an estimate from John at Food Services for sandwiches and chips and coffee and water. That kind of service was going to be, I guesstimated for 300, just for a number to throw out, and it was about $1,900.
Okay.
So 2,000.
We ready to say 2,000, folks? In motion?
So move.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so the motion's made and seconded to allow Marion to negotiate who she needs to negotiate with for $2,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Beforehand, can we make a decision as to what you think the
We're going to get to that piece too, as to how we can try to get the best guess.
Right, we have to have a number 2 food service, if we go through the schools, we have to have a number 2 done by the 27th of May. So we'll ask for some RSVPs, that'll give us an idea anyway, and we'll have some added after that, but at least we'll have a ballpark number.
Did you find out why it was $2 for one group and $1,900 for?
This isn't the government.
Yeah, it is.
No, what Marion just described is more extensive than what John provided for that meal.
Okay.
Could we work with John too? Maybe 27 May is a little early for us to give him too strong a number.
Yeah.
But as you suggest,
And that might
that's it.
depend on exactly what we're
Yeah.
asking to do.
So now techniques to see how we can gauge how many folks might come.
Unfortunately, everything we've ever tried did not work,
Okay.
and especially in June. So I think that Marin's suggestion that we, the RSVP is at least a ballpark, but it's in no way accurate, unfortunately. And people have become more and more ignoring of that, of
Okay,
RSVPs.
yeah.
Even in social situations, it's terrible.
Yeah, we shouldn't post in Facebook, otherwise there'll like be 2,000 people showing up just.
We should be so lucky, 2,000
Yeah, I was
people.
just gonna
That's
say.
for the free food.
We'll take it.
300 people to a town meeting.
Well, but that's part of the reason we're giving free food and the raffle, so more people can.
No, I understand, but if
I'm not sure
you
you'll get
cannot be
2,000.
too public about it.
No, I think you can.
Marion, how would you like the RISVIP process to work?
How RSVP to the master plan email?
Yeah.
Is that?
Might as well go ahead and try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you could say, if you don't,
To help us plan for food.
yeah,
that's-
exactly, and just be direct,
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I mean, that part's, I agree with.
It's
with that.
obvious, but not.
I'm just looking at the process to get people to respond and who to respond to.
Right.
And
Yeah. That can go through the master
Master
plan
plan
at
email.
Littleton MA.
so just have them come back to our email then.
Yeah.
In essence, okay.
Have you folks ever seen used, the reason I mention it is because the biggest turnout I've ever seen involving Littleton involved a comedian. And I was just wondering, have you folks ever seen family-oriented comedian come in for the first 5 or 10 minutes while people are sitting and entertain the crowd, but have that part of the ad?
Yes. Yeah.
Just 5 or 10 minutes and a few laughs and all, and then he or she is finished and we move on. But I'm using that as an
It's
attractant.
another draw
Good idea.
to the families.
But, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's basically not,
So do you know someone who would be that
not,
entertainer?
not anyone who could keep it clean more than 20 seconds. So, it was just- but I thought for sure
That we would?
that you guys would, or at least he would.
There's actually a girl who grew up in Littleton who's a comedian on the
Really?
circuit now. Yeah, I won't throw a name out here now, but I'll check and see if I can. Maybe not for this, but maybe some,
Yeah, but maybe
some
the
other
next one.
function.
And if I'm only thinking of the drawing because
of
it's hard
course.
to estimate what it is. And
Yeah.
of course, it drives it up and it gives Marin motive to negotiate hard on the food so we have something left over to pay the.
When you do those words for us, include how specifically you want the RSVP to work. So that we're all communicating the exact same way instead of each one of us Vegas freestyling it.
So do you have any more questions or comments on the meeting, the logistics, the details, the outreach? And we'll be in contact very soon.
So who's going to print the flyers? We are going to print them?
So will the town print and then just
Depending on how many, the number that we want, we can either do them on-site or send them off-site.
But do we have a number? Or?
Well, you probably want to do a lot. I mean, would you put them in the school backpacks?
I don't think you can.
We don't typically do that anymore.
Yeah,
You're
most
gonna
times
send
you
a
don't.
flyer
We have, everybody does electronic newsletters and things like that, so that's how all that information is disseminated.
Yeah, the principal way that we notify people of things that are happening is to put a flyer in the electric bill, which goes out, I think that the cycle is that in over a 2 to 3 week period, everyone gets it. We did that for the stormwater bylaw and prior to town meeting. We routinely do that. We need to coordinate that rather quickly with the electric department.
I'm trying to remember when the next bill comes out.
I think if we've got,
I think,
we have a month, barely.
Barely.
Yeah, so it's possible.
One just arrived.
they used to have a price for printing and inserting, so.
Oh.
They didn't charge me.
but
You're
there you
the
go.
guy to ask then.
So this goes to all households, right?
Well, no, because there's customers like I that just get it electronically, so, and I think they encourage more and more people to do that.
Yeah.
We know some people on the light and water.
Jimmy, you talk to him, right?
So can someone check on that when the deadline is?
Keith, can I ask you to run with that one, please?
Sure.
Okay, so otherwise, Maren, the town will print flyers? Or send them out? Okay. So then we have the last item.
Yeah. That's it on the June meeting, I guess, yes.
All right, then, and we know it can be dynamic, so working directly with Maren,
Yeah.
you guys are going to have to make some decisions, and I'm content with them making those decisions, folks, because for us to try and get together as a committee ain't going to work.
Do it.
So Maren's got to have that latitude.
We've covered most things.
Yeah. And it's scoped, but, you know, the
Yeah,
details, so.
The details, right.
Okay.
So this just follows up on something I had mentioned last month, and I was trying to sort out what would be appropriate comparison area for the master plan elements, and after probably making this more complicated than I needed to, I came to the conclusion that at least for the sort of the housing and the economic development elements, which are really kind of market sensitive, that I think we need to kind of stick with Littleton and the surrounding towns, and as appropriate, the subregion, the MAPC subregion that you are part of, because I just think that those geographies kind of make sense. There may be times when it's worth bringing the Boston metro area in for something like income comparisons or labor force characteristics or something, but I think for those two elements, it's probably the most appropriate thing to do. And then the list that we got from the town, which I think is sort of the benchmark communities for like your personnel plan, that list of towns makes a lot of sense to me for things like the public facilities and services element, because that's really when you're kind of looking at who's your peer group.
Right.
But that's a different question from what's your sort of market area. And so I think that's kind of what we'll do. And also, I think that taking it that way is going to make at least something like the housing element more consistent with the housing plan that you already have. But better not to sort of mix those geographies up too much. I haven't had a chance to look at the EDSAT report, so Barry usually has comparison communities in his report format, so I want to just take a look at that. But my inclination is to say, let's just try to keep this simple and sort of focus on your regional context, your market context, and as appropriate, the kind of sub-region of which you're a part. And then I'll just depart from that in the public facilities and services element and look at your peer group as appropriate. I think that's kind of what we're going to do. So unless somebody has a problem with that, but it just seems to make the most
I
sense.
just want, you're looking, you're getting what, employment? I'm trying to understand what.
Well, sometimes it just helps to, we're trying to put a community in a context, and so you look at your housing market. I'll just pick that one. It's an easy one for me to pull off the top of my head. What are your housing prices like? What are your rents like? What's around you? How do you compare with the communities around you? What are the sort of housing opportunities that exist in the region? And so you just look at Littleton related to some other communities.
I'm asking you about your data source. It's not a big.
Oh, it's going to depend on the question. For housing, you might look at the American Community Survey, you might look at the Warren Group, sales information, you might look at assessors data. We do a lot with assessors data and GIS. So it really depends, I think, on what the question is that you're looking at. But you would never do an entire master plan element off one source anyway. You just never would.
I was just wondering.
You might look at building permit.
Although it's been done.
Yeah, well,
I'm not advocating it, but that's something we want to get away from.
We would be looking at things like building permit trends from the town. Sometimes towns have trouble sort of getting us that information. There's other sources of building permits, but you're looking, you're trying to get a handle on what do you have, what's your housing stock, what kind of households live in this housing stock, how is it priced, what are the physical and financial characteristics of your housing, and how has it changed? So to answer those kinds of questions, you're looking at a combination of demographic and market data.
It's just that I've discovered Littleton is so small.
Yes.
That it gets absorbed and disappears into other studies. And a lot of the numbers for Littleton are not statistically significant.
Yeah.
That is, they're not meaningful. They never sampled it. Even the US Census Bureau only does that sample, and that sample may not, in speaking of them, they admit this is not valid for towns this size.
Well, the 5-year data set is generally considered reliable. It's when you get into the 1-year data set for a geography this small, they don't even report a 1-year data set for geography this small, but the 5-year is it's a revolving, every year there's a sample, and so, that I think really, there are issues with the margin of error in the American Community Survey. We have an obligation to sort of tell people that, but I think generally from the Census Bureau, at least conversations I've had with those folks, the 5-year data set is a pretty decent one. And then, of course, there's the every 10-year actual census, too. So you have two things you're pulling from the Census Bureau. One is the actual change that's happened in your community over time, and the other is estimates and projections. So.
And you're looking for trends, you're
You're
not
looking
looking
for
for like a
trends.
specific
Again,
data
this
point.
is probably in the weeds, but the one,
it's fine.
the number that concerns me, we connect with housing and a bunch of other things, one number in particular is the alleged, the size of the aging population, so-called, whether you use 55 or whatever number you're using. Getting that number for a town like Littleton, I think, is tough. Getting those trend lines. And the study out of Massachusetts, out of the Commonwealth, the author of it admits that it's not valid for.
I think it depends on whether you're looking at estimates or actuals.
And if I remember right, our town census has our age on it.
Yeah, but you've got to be careful because, first of all, that's not a systematic survey. Second, if you're trying to look at your town in relation to what's around it, not everybody's, you need a consistent methodology. So sometimes what happens, we're actually working at a community right now where there's a pretty big difference of opinion between the actual population count from the Census Bureau and the town clerk's sense of what's going on. To make the report coherent to a reader, because there's comparison communities, we use the census numbers and tables, but we footnoted it generously throughout to acknowledge that there were situations where the town really felt that those numbers were not exactly valid or current.
And I think what Judy's saying indicates she's very sensitive to your concerns.
Yeah, that's all I'm
Yeah,
not.
no, it's a good point, yeah. Yeah, the estimates are, we all have to be just intellectually honest about how we use them. So I just wanted to update you on where we were with that. We're starting to sort of pull that information together. The other thing we would do too, for the housing element is you kind of look at sub-geographies within the town, sub-market areas and so forth, so, but use assessor's data for that.
So I think that's it.
I think I think that's all we had.
Do you have a wrap-up or anything?
Well, you have some board heads, but I think we are, you know, we're in the mode right now of, I think we've got our marching orders in terms of trying to prepare for this meeting. So I don't actually have any more to bring to you tonight.
Let's go around the table then.
Sure,
Do you have any questions?
for me.
Mike?
I'm good.
Mike?
Good.
I didn't know whether you had introduced Bartlett, yeah, okay, before these folks. I saw that, but I didn't want it to happen after these folks left, that's all.
But thank you.
I'm good.
Good.
All right, so to Paul's point, we do have an open seat, and it's half-filled. We say half-filled because it is the planning board and the board of selectmen, and up to this point, Bartlett Harvey has generously stepped forward to participate, and the planning board has already voted to appoint him to this, and now the board of selectmen, and is that on the next agenda?
You can do it on Monday night, on the 23rd.
Great.
So,
Well, that's the .5, I see.
there you go.
I'm halfway there.
There you go.
But he's very much a whole round. So, but happy to have you, Bartlett. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, with that, take a motion on minutes from April 19th.
If everyone's had a chance to review them, I'll move the April 19th minutes as presented.
I
Second.
have one correction. Of course I would. But now I have to find it.
Let me get a second.
Hearing none.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, seconds. What's your minor change?
The minor change is, it's not worth it. Just let it go. I'll
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, is there any other board business that we want to concern ourselves with? All right, in closing, what I'd like to say is, certainly, personally, we all have day jobs, except maybe one. But everybody else has a day job. And you participate so much in so many other ways, so you're busy too.
Well, this is why I've been able to have a full-time job. Because I worked so hard for so long.
We all step forward to do this, folks. The June 13th is an important one. We got to step to the plate on that and be there, please. And stuff happens, and I get that. It happens to all of us. But let's try to make that our priority, please.
But even more important than being there, which is important, it's the execution up to,
Execution, thank
because
you.
we were all assigned tasks. So that needs to be first and foremost for, given our priorities of all the other things we do, we kind of got to make room for that. Even if it means at the extent of something else, so be it.
Excellent point, thank you.
So Paul, I'm going to take what we talked about here today and send it back out so that everyone has the latest version.
It'll be revision 3.
So you'll-
That's a new date on it.
So everyone will have
Don't
it.
forget to put our names on where we signed up for stuff.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. Okey-doke.
We're forcibly volunteering for
Anything
things.
You guys got anything else for the committee? All right, folks, thanks for bearing with us on
Motion
television.
adjourned, or we did that?
We
We did?
I was thinking people on
Oh,
TV watching
okay.
us. Our new selectman has to have his input.
Just didn't want you to get ahead of yourself.
Okay, here are no other inputs. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure you don't want to address the TV audience one more time?
Killing me.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.